All right. 6:30, we call Sawyer County Public Works meeting to order. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Ed Peters,
Here.
Chris West,
Here.
Mark Kelsey, or Mark Helwig. And Brian Bizinet.
There.
Let the record indicate we have a quorum. We have 3 people here and 2 virtual. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Number 4, certification of public compliance and open meeting laws.
This meeting has been known to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Number 5, meeting agenda is set. Number 6, public comment. Ms. Zilmer, go ahead.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, Edgewater property owner. And in follow-up to the email I sent earlier today about Washburn County starting their annual review and consideration of new ATV, UTV route requests. Their February meeting that's outlined in the summary will be on February 13th at 8 o'clock at the meeting room in the highway department or the highway facility in Spooner. I don't think they have great Zoom capabilities like you guys have here in Sawyer County. So I would recommend that if you can have somebody to attend, it really is a thorough and thoughtful process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Mike? No, okay. Number 7, excuse me. Consider approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, January 11th.
Make a motion to approve. I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Helwig, second by Mr. Russ to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 8, Derek left me an email late today and said he was unable to attend, but he does have a report that he put together to try to keep us abreast. Does anybody have any questions on his report?
Does he have a new snowblower ordered?
Um,
That seems like his most thing he talks about every month.
There's special funding that we have to have. So we're working on getting the funding so we can get the snow.
I just laugh because when it says you're wanting to be here for 23, 23 winter. So
Yeah, no, that's fine. You know, it's a battle all the time when you deal with funds from the state. So-
Yeah, I was reading his thing earlier and I was wondering about that. His report.
It's a headache for him, but lots of things are. Number 10, we have our highway commissioner, Mr. Brad Bicey here.
How we doing?
Good.
WC deck replacement for Blue Ray Bridge. We had talked about that, Ron. I had to go back over that with Randy Kirk from DOT. They had a problem with the PS&E date.
Okay.
But the PS&E date is when the project design has to be in. They said it had to be pushed back. I just couldn't get anybody to bid it, so I did push it back to
Okay,
work with the DOT. And I do have one proposal that's coming in, and that's when I'll need, another board member.
okay,
And I also sent another RFP, which is request for proposal for County B project, which is up from 2nd Street to Chippewa Trail. We're gonna be doing that. That'll be the PS&E date is 8/1/2024. And we'll actually let date, which means when we'll do it, will be in 25.
okay,
So that's gonna be kind of an overlay. We're gonna mill the gutters down 2 inches and do that through town, the 4-lane there, so. And like I said, it should be soon, like in March, well, in February, I need a board member to do the double C replacement bridge for the designers, and probably in March, we'll have to need another one for that B project.
okay.
So I'll keep you abreast, Ron, so.
I thought Ed did, but
Well-
what does that entail? I mean,
Yeah, you go off the highway shop and there's some paperwork we have to review. And you have to choose a company that you're going to have do the engineering.
It'll be like an engineer's firm, there'll be proposals and you will just pick one of them. In this case, I think Double C, we're only gonna have one, but on that B project, we'll probably, I mean, on the B project, we should have, a number of them to pick from. I'm guessing, but that would be in March. Also, we've had a very terrible winter up to date and, I talked to Andy and everybody keeps saying there's a salt shortage. You probably heard that. There really isn't a salt shortage. It's just that I've been cutting back a little on the lower volume roads in the county and mixing with sand, so like a 50-50. The facts are it ain't gonna bear up as quick. You're probably not gonna get as quick a response and I know life, there's no money when it comes to life. And I'm sure, I'm gonna make sure that you always know that I'm gonna do the best for the traveling public, that, but. There is, we do need to do some cutbacks because our allotment for salt is like 3,000 ton a year, which believe it or not, is $258,750. That's the kind of money we put on our county roads on salt. So it really, so at this time, we have probably 2/3 of it used up. So I am cutting back and making some cuts. There will be probably on the lower volume roads, you'll probably see a little change. But I've been doing it and haven't had no complaints. So I just want everybody to know that I am, I will keep the traveling public, at heart. I'm not gonna jeopardize anybody's lives. I want to make sure they're safe.
You do a good job of
Yeah,
that.
so that's all I have.
Yes.
I would just like to say it's great to work with the highway department and we communicate well. And they've been very responsive and from our perspective. And travels, the highways have been pretty good this winter, considering all the snow. It seems like every other day there's a skiff of snow, if not more, and they're tended to well.
Thank you for that comment.
So how do you determine what's a higher volume road than the other?
Well, you go by the ADT of it, how many like B, for example, County B is a highly traveled, we get used straight salt on that. Where W, let's say by winter, that would be a low volume. You see 2 cars an hour, or C, all by excellent number of low volume roads.
Okay.
So just kind of about how many cars per hour travel a road, B we'll keep using salt on B.
Right.
K will have salt.
What about like say E from south of B to K and then E from K to 27?
And that changes.
Right.
So
Right.
it all depends on the situation. Right now that guy's running salt. Yeah, if so when I say I go to sand, I go 50-50. So I actually mix the salt with the sand. So we got traction, plus you have the melted ability. So
Right.
actually, some people like that better. It does have, where salt will bear it off quicker, you're gonna have that slushy point.
Right, where it's like gritty to the sand.
Yeah, and the sand is a little more gritty, so then in some cases it, some people like it better, but. There is one other thing I didn't say, we're still we're mixing salt sand all the time, Ron, and trying to keep up with these townships, that's a full-time job. And that and these storm trees, we're still clearing roads and in between snowstorms and mixing salt sands. So,
Well, the towns appreciate you getting that salt sand out so that they
Yeah.
can pick it up.
Yeah.
Also like to point out that Mr. Vicey is also doing the commissioner's job and the patrol superintendent's job since January 6th, and we appreciate that. We had interviews set up for next Tuesday and they fell apart. So we don't know when to interview them. So we'll continue to advertise for the highway commissioner.
the best we can while we're here.
Any questions for Mr. Vicey? Thank you. Number 11, courthouse remodel update. Contingency fund. Andy's traveling. He said he'd be unable to go virtual on this meeting, but he gave us a printout or a sheet of things he wanted to perhaps cover. Now, some of you don't have it, so maybe it's best if I read it. Mr. Bissonnette and Mr. Peters, do you have a copy of that?
I do have a copy of it. Thank you, Mr. Kinsley.
All right,
I do not. It should be attached to that email.
that's right. There's the other folks, they don't have it either, so. Updates for Public Works Committee agenda items, February 8th, from the county administrator. He talked about a few different things, so I'll just kind of cover them all so that everybody's abreast of what's going on the best that we can. He talked about the Hayward Aviation Contract Airport with Derek, the runway rehabilitation update, and the projects of funds. He just kind of highlighted things, so he didn't go into depth on some of that. He said in there, see the airport manager's report. Letter C, winter snow removal. We went over the budget for 2022 due to snow removal costs, the snow blower repair. We aren't doing well in 2023. There remains a combination of factors, large, difficult snowfalls and equipment issues. The BOA is moving ahead with procurement to the new snow blower, but they likely won't have it here until 2023 or 24 winter. So that means we got to get through another season yet. Letter D, Bureau of Aeronautic to see the airport manager report. New petition for the coming of March, getting the airport improvement items current within the system. Number 10, Highway Commissioners Report. Brad and I have discussed salt inventories and need to change the racial treatment on roads to make it through the rest of the season. Very supportive in his decision. Highway Commissioner's position, we had interviews scheduled for next week. We lost one of the 3 candidates. We likely hope to have a deepened application pool coming forward. No updates or activities on ATV, UTV ordinance. Let's stop there a minute. On Highway Commissioner's report, we don't have that ordinance on here tonight. But Mr. Bissonnette was nice enough to share some information with me. You want to cover some of that, Mr. Bissonnette?
Sure. We had set up a meeting. Actually, I was been trying to get a meeting all month because, as I stated in the last meeting, I was going to do my best to get the governing board to address the ATV ordinance, the county ordinance, once and for all. A meeting was set up on Monday, and there was a pretty lengthy discussion on ATVs, and I don't have a copy of the letter that was drafted by the attorney. I did read it yesterday, but basically, in a nutshell, what the tribe is saying is that they want to sit down and talk about this before anything gets approved. You know, there's jurisdictional issues that they want resolved. And I don't know, they sent you the letter, Ron, did you receive it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And so basically what they're requesting is just to hold off on this. Otherwise, they're going to be in opposition to it until a sit-down meeting occurs.
Did it state who they want to sit down with?
Well, they said the county board to me.
Okay,
But I think even if we had some of the committee members sit down with them, just iron this out, that would at least move things forward.
okay. The question seems to be, if I may, the question seems to be the roads on the tribal land are county roads, and the county roads are for vehicle traffic.
Yep.
They don't feel that the ATV and UTV should be on them roads. and to their merit. I respect that, but I would like to get something resolved and so we can get things moving forward. Either you can't just stop and say you're on the reservation, you can't go there, because the traffic isn't gonna know where they're at. So,
Well, and to be candid, Ron, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But to be candid, I do have concerns that the towns with their, the various provisions in their ATV ordinances, I would be reluctant to come to Sawyer County without knowing what jurisdiction I am, because some of these ordinances conflict in what they say. As an example, hours of operation, there's towns that allow 24-hour operation, other ones have limit. People, our visitors are not going to know what jurisdiction they're in. It's problematic. And so I do want to bring up the fact that we're talking road routes here. And I want to assure people that our ATV trail, the one that we have approved already, is going to remain open to the public. So until we can get some kind of resolution on the road routes, the best we can offer, or the best thing I can say right now to the public is that we do have a trail that goes from the casino all the way to Tuscobia that they're more than free to use. So.
okay, thank you. Would it be helpful? Yes, go ahead.
I ask you, do you think we should put it on the agenda and just have it right in with the Public Works meeting? Instead of a special one?
That's a good idea.
My question is, does Doug Motek and his staff ride around with, well, there'd be 15 districts plus a county? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And if there's all these different policies, which
But-
ones, how does he staff?
But
it
we're
to
just talking
keep
about
up with
county
all?
roads here,
Right,
so.
but I mean, when there's all these different ordinances for townships and everything, it's like, what trumps the other?
One thing about the UTV, ATV traffic on the roadways, there's a state statute that's an umbrella statute that covers all those jurisdictions, which gives law enforcement officers of all agency within those jurisdictions, which includes the state patrol and the DNR, to enforce in all those jurisdictions.
But which,
We receive a copy from each jurisdiction, so we're aware of what each jurisdiction has for. Plus, it also includes by state statute, the signage. So all we have to know is that there's a complete ordinance and the roads have to be signed for the recreational vehicle, or that in itself makes it legal or not legal.
That help?
My question, Ron, is this, so if I understand this right, the ATV is gonna drive down when it hits the reservation, it can't go no farther? Is that what we're proposing? I mean,
Well,
after dark, that's the way it'll be with the tribe's policy.
if the ordinance was approved, but president is not approved.
right, okay.
So here's a question, Mr. Bissonnette. Do you think tribal members would come to the Public Works meeting and we could hash it out in a month or two in the future? Or do we need to go up there and meet with somebody?
I tell you what, I don't want to speak on behalf of the Tribal Governing Board, what they're willing to do. How about we do it this way? I will be in contact with the tribe tomorrow. Hopefully, depending on their schedules, I just grab them whenever I can. But I could, at a minimum, next Monday, I could get on their agenda and pose the question, how do you guys want to proceed with this with the county? Now, I'm just with what I'm hearing here, at least this committee is receptive to meeting with the governing board, whether it be there or wherever. So I'm correct on that, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah. Trust me, there's nobody gets this resolved any more than me. So what I'll do like I said, as soon as I get word, Mr. Chairman, I'll contact you and let you know how they respond.
That would be great. And then I'm gonna contact Mr. Rotek and Mr. Bicey and see if they're available then. Just try to get it hammered out and be done. Okay, all right, thank you. Well, this isn't how we normally run a meeting, but sometimes you gotta adapt to what you got. Next thing Mr. Alvarado addressed was a courtroom remodel, and I think that's what most people are here for anyway. And the contingency fund is less than 200,000 now, with additional items in progress. Construction manager has indicated that the pending items in the progress are additionally remodel work after new construction is complete, and will likely consume the contingency fund. We are hoping to have money left in the contingency fund, but we'll see where we end up. Consider possible changes and additions to the scope of the work. We found out last week in our bi-weekly construction meeting that the occupants turnover date will have been pushed back. The new date is March 31st from the former date of March 10th. Construction manager Myron, who informed that the air handling unit that was expected to arrive on February 10th is now potentially delayed until leaving the manufacturing until March 10th or 17th, which is a month behind. They are looking at options to pulling the date back up. However, it doesn't seem promising. In this delay, the arrival of the unit is primary reason for pushing the turnover date back. In addition, we already knew that the main distributor panel would be arriving sometime in March, but the temporary power was going to be used to test all the systems before it turned over. The panel is now expected to be shipped out of Mexico from Square D, wherever Square D is in Mexico, on March 7th. This is unknown how long the journey will take to get here, as it has to pass through multiple parties. We're going to hold off on the temporary power until the timeline of the air handler is confirmed. In the last month, there's been a number of issues that is raised by the court and sheriff's department related to security, safety, and staffing efficiencies that were not in the final plans. At this time, it is unclear if these omits during this design process overlooked or a new request. The court-related item included additional cameras, microphones in the courtroom, and monitoring procedures cameras in the security hallways, intercoms and cameras at the security entrance of the office to the control access, and installation of bullet-resistant film glass over the windows of the judge's chamber, as the judge has indicated he's unwilling to move to the new office unless the chambers are safely addressed. Now, we met last Wednesday with Myron, and it was also brought up not just the judge's window, if I may use that, but there are a couple other windows that should be covered also. It's got one more paragraph here. The jail item includes door controls on the holding cell between the jail and the court side. We are currently gathering estimates for these items. Preliminary numbers are 45 to 50,000 range. Does not include all the costs of the bulletproof resistant measures. We need to consider these outside costs of the contingency fund, as there are add-ons, and at this point, we don't anticipate there being available contingency dollars. If we want to include these items within the current construction, we need to commit ASAP, which is the reason for the special board meeting tomorrow. We expect to have another idea on a complete cost by then. So when they brought this up last Wednesday, they asked me how to handle it. Did we want to bring it just to Public Works? And I said, no, I want it to come to the full county board. Will you give a copy of that to Mr. Rotek? And that's the reason for having a full county board meeting tomorrow morning at 10. Any comments, thoughts?
Plus the bulletproof.
Pardon?
So it's 50 grand plus the bullet.
Yes.
I think, overall, when it comes to safety, there, these add-ons or change or however they got missed, whatever it may be. I mean, bottom line, it comes down to safety of the public, employees, the jail staff. It all ties into each other. I don't know where the oversight was or the look of things, but. I mean, there's a whole nother, there's stuff, district court still has to do a walkthrough. If they don't approve it, it's not gonna be, they can't take the facility, they won't allow us to take the facility if they don't agree with it. I did talk to our district court administrator, the interim, she'll be on the meeting tomorrow. She had kind of indicated the same. She said, I don't know what the miss was, but I think efficiency and safety. I mean, to make those changes now, to make sense. The cost to do it later is gonna, then you have to stage everyone to come do it again. Like all those costs, I mean, unfortunately, and this is how it came down to it, but I think efficiency and safety for everybody. Would make sense, it may just make sense.
Okay.
So. I don't know if they got the estimate on the windows at this point yet,
We don't have that yet.
but I think Susan was gonna see something about that too on her end, and she'll be present tomorrow at the meeting.
Okay. Now, the meeting's in here tomorrow, so you're aware of that.
Yeah.
Yes,
No, just my personal opinion that all those issues need to be addressed and need to be in the facility, in my opinion. Definitely need those cameras and everything down the hallways for, as you moving the inmates, you gotta keep the safety of the jailers. And all that,
yes.
I'd just like to take a couple minutes and explain a couple things. And I'll surely take responsibility for the oversight, and I guess it kind of come to me by surprise as well. We toured the new facility there. Sometimes you assume that it's in order and things are the way they should be, and Lieutenant Jeff Johnson did a phenomenal job, and he was very involved in some of the planning stages and everything, and with his departure, that might be part of it, I'm not certain. And we surely miss him with his contributions in that area. But when it comes to the door locks there on the jail side, just a couple things I want to touch with the inmates coming down the hallway. There's going to be a holding facility that's going to be in the secure part of the jail. By having those automatic door locks in there, we're going to be able to have inmates walk down there and have the doors controlled by central control so that they can be in there without added staff. Staff is a huge issue with their jail. The average jail has one jailer per 8 to 12 inmates. Last year, we ran 29 inmates to one jailer. And I think staffing costs, and when we talk about efficiency, that's huge, are a big part of the concern here, because that's an added cost annually. And to make a $45,000, $50,000 investment on cameras and locks that are going to promote our efficiency, in the end, is going to save us probably 100-fold. In short order there. The cameras, it's going, the other thing I want to mention is if we have one jailer in central control out of 3 on day shift, and Tuesdays, the court days are rampant. We have 1 in central control, we have 1 in booking, and we have 1 on the floor. And we don't have that extra jailer to be escorting inmates. So there's a high probability one of the court officers or our court officer would have to do it. And that's definitely without question going to cause issues with the court schedule, because there's no way by the time he secures his firearm, goes into the facility, escorts him back, it's going to be nothing per, hearing. And sometimes you have them backed up one after the other. You could cost a half hour to an hour on a typical Tuesday just because of the added shuffle and concern that way. On the court security cameras, they're monitored by not only our staff, the court, we have additional staff monitoring them on a regular basis. And if there's a problem, we're able to tend to that problem immediately, or in theory, as soon as we can get there. If there is a crime or something that's committed, by having those cameras positioned where they should be, it's also great evidence for future prosecution there. And things just aren't in our communities and including in the court like they used to be.
I will add to, with as far as staffing and being efficient, having to take one of the court officers out to have to go and get one of the inmates. you're, having them leave, you're also putting the public at risk because now they're in a courtroom with, there's no one in there. So I think it just makes sense with efficiency and, I mean, unfortunately, employment's, it's hard to find people.
Yeah.
And the placement of the cameras, a lot of those that were moved or that we came to see, we went through and with Doug and just about the placement of those. And I think that's why a lot of those are shifting because we don't want to leave blind spots for them, we have to ensure everyone can do their job right.
And the added thing is different when you're actually physically in there looking at it versus seeing it
Yeah.
on a drawing.
I heard the word court officers. There's only one, isn't there?
Well, we have a court division, we have a Huber officer, we have a court officer, we have a court security officer, and they're all cross-trained, and we do our best to utilize them accordingly. Sometimes they're available, oftentimes they're not available. They're in their own duties and responsibilities there. And oftentimes if they take personal time off or whatever, that instead of having 3, we only have 1 or 2. And other things come up, they may be involved in a transport or other thing.
Sure.
So I use the plural because they may not be just one face.
I forgot about those other people.
Here's a question I have that I'm all for the cameras. I'm all for everything. Because we all know it's easier to spend the money now up front, get it taken care of. Did Ventures let us down and not have all this stuff in there? Immaterial.
I'm wondering, because I know it was brought up, because district court needed to sign off on that before it was typically the chief judge has to submit something approving the bill. And I've yet to find that. I've contacted and asked for it. They've been searching for it, and I don't know at this point, what do you, but.
I agree, but that's what I look at, and maybe I shouldn't say it out loud. But then the other thing is, now correct me if I'm wrong, I understand the prisoners come out of the jail and they start to go down that hall. There's 2 holding cells there with the doors, so they can't go all the way to the courtroom. From that door to the courtroom, that ceiling's not secure. Is that an issue? That's what I was told. Anyway, that's what I think I was told.
We, yesterday or the day before,
Yeah.
our jail inspector, Jody Hollister, toured it with Trevor from Myron. And those discussions existed, and she asked about the tiles and all the security measures. And she indicated that with what's constructed and what's not constructed, which Myron verified, or Trevor with Myron verified, she seemed pretty content and didn't have any issues.
Another question. But there's cameras, there's going to be, I should say, cameras and microphone, not microphones, but speakers all throughout that hallway. In the jail, I know that there's times when inmates walk around, that control is telling them where to go. Would that be feasible to go down that hallway? Not just a.
Well, part of the cameras is to have cameras in the adequate spots so it can be monitored on both ends.
I was just thinking,
So that
a way to free up one of the court officers down that hallway there, they come out of the.
once they come out of the
Cell.
secure part of the jail, they have to be escorted by a court officer.
Okay. Answers that. Thanks.
Mr. Bissonette, you got any questions for anybody?
Not necessarily a question, more of a statement.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of construction project management over the years. And, for life me, I shouldn't say every project, you try to minimize the change orders that come in because it's going to eat up your contingency depending on what it is. I guess my question is, and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, but this should have been all resolved in the pre-design stage of the project. Now, I understand drawings are hard to comprehend. In some cases, it's hard to visualize against a drawing. But you know, that's really the architect's responsibility. I mean, you raise the issue, he should be able to explain it to you. So, I don't know, it's kind of frustrating to see, the amount of change orders we've had in this project. I understand, you know, there are some things changed. You know, as far as material lead times right now, because I'm overseeing 3 projects as it is, that is an issue. You know, industry wide. So luckily we've been able to minimize it. But I don't know, it's frustrating, but you know, at the end of the bottom of the store or bottom of the line is, you know, if we need it, we need it. It's just unfortunate it wasn't caught earlier.
Thank you. Mr. Peters, you have something you want to add?
I don't think it's anything that hasn't been said before, but it is, as Brian said, that it is frustrating to have this come up at this late hour in this construction project. These seem like basic kinds of needs that unfortunately should have been addressed several years ago.
Well, that is why when it was brought to my attention last Wednesday, I said, we're gonna have the whole full board meeting and talk about it. Mr. Mirotek's next.
I just want to mention, you brought up a valid point there about the ceiling tiles. I want to also additionally add, even though they're secured and there's metal tiles, the walls go right up to the ceiling in each one of those passages. So if they did get through, they cannot escape through the ceiling. They're trapped within that hallway.
Thank you. Mr. Howard.
My question would be, since the contingency fund has been exhausted, where will you be looking for funds?
Well, that'll get answered tomorrow under our accountant. Yeah, we did talk about that. And I think everybody's frustrated about it, but we all know down inside, we have to do it to move forward. Probably, and I shouldn't speak for the whole board, but that's probably where we're at. Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Until tomorrow.
Okay, we have
I'll sleep on the rest of it.
future agenda items. We're gonna pound out at the airport, the runway that we're trying to get done. Sounds like there might be some private enterprise that's gonna bring money forward so we can do the airport runway done sooner, but it's yet to be determined. And we still have the ordinance for the highway, and we're gonna deal with that the best we can. And I think maintenance does a very good job. They're doing their job, plus they're also participating in all the meetings with Myron, so. Anybody else have anything for next month's meeting?
Hopefully, Brian will. And
I'm sure he'll do the best he can do.
I just want to thank the guys coming tonight.
That's a good point. Thank you. No, everybody knows meetings tomorrow at 10 o'clock. If it's in here, if you're available, it's gonna be great that you could show up. Because there might be questions that you can help us answer. Okay? Anybody else have anything else? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
See you in the morning.